Hello and welcome to BBC News. More than 200 people have died after an Air India flight from the Indian city of Ahmedabad, bound for London, crashed shortly after takeoff. Well, these pictures, verified by the BBC, show the moment the Boeing 7878 Dreamliner came down. Now, you can see the jet losing altitude above a built-up area close to the airport's runway before disappearing from view. Well, shortly after, a huge explosion can be seen. Well, more on this developing story after this short break. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. You're watching BBC News. The crash of the Air India jet led to huge devastation in a residential area of Ahmedabad. In fact, firefighters were at the scene not long after the crash, but there was huge damage to a mid-rise building with signs that a fierce fire had broken out. Well, emergency helpline numbers have been set up for all those who need information on these flights. Air India have a number of those for those in India, and that number is 1800 56 91 444. That's 1800 5691 444. And there's a number for foreign nationals too. That's 0091 806 277 9200. Let me repeat that. It's 0091 806 277 9200. And the UK's Foreign Office has a line for British nationals concerned about friends or family, and that number is 0207 008 5000. That's 0207 008 5000. We'll have more into the fatal crash of the Air India flight after this short break on BBC News. Join me at 7 p.m. for a BBC News special on the Air India crash. We'll be getting reaction from the UK, talking to eyewitnesses and looking into what may have led to this air disaster. That's at 7 p.m. on BBC One and across BBC News.
Well, that's it from us here on the BBC News at 6. Now it is time for the news where you are. Good night.
More now on our breaking news, and that is the Air India plane crash. At least 200 people have been killed after the jet came down shortly after takeoff in Ahmedabad. For more on what we know so far, here's Merlin Thomas from BBC Verify. Alex, good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, Alex Macheras. Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News. Let's take you through some of the day's other news now. Iran says it will increase the output of enriched uranium despite criticism of its nuclear program by the UN's atomic watchdog. Well, emergency helpline numbers have been set up for those that need information on the flights. Air India have a number for those in India. That's 1800 5691 444. I'll repeat that for you. That's 1800 5691 444. There's also a number for foreign nationals. That's 0091 806 277 9200. That's 0091 806 277 9200. And the UK's Foreign Office has a line for British nationals concerned about friends or family. It's 0207 008 5000. That's 0207 008 5000. And of course, we're following all the latest developments on the Air India crash, the jet, which was heading from Ahmedabad to Gatwick. You can follow all of it live on BBC News and on the website, as well as the app. In a few minutes' time, we'll have a BBC News special on the Air India crash coming up at the top of the hour here on BBC News. Hello and welcome to this BBC News special programme dedicating the next hour to the Air India plane crash which has killed more than 200 people. Over the coming hour, we will report extensively from Ahmedabad and across the world, with our correspondents getting reaction from those impacted, as well as looking at the wider implications of this disaster. Well, police say more than 200 people have died in the crash. That's passengers and those on the ground. These pictures, verified by the BBC, show the moment the Boeing 7878 Dreamliner came down. You can see the jet losing altitude above a built-up area close to the airport's runway before then disappearing from view. Well, shortly after, a huge explosion can be seen. Terry Tozer, thank you for speaking to us this evening.
You're welcome.
Well, let's recap what's happened today. Police say more than 200 people have died in the crash. That's passengers and those on the ground. These pictures, verified by the BBC, show the moment the Boeing 7878 Dreamliner came down. You can see there, as we were talking to Terry, the jet losing altitude above a built-up area close to the airport's runway before disappearing from view. Shortly after, a huge explosion can be seen. Well, flight AI 171 was due to fly from the city in the west of India to London's Gatwick Airport, arriving at around 6:25 this evening, BST. The flight was recorded picking up speed at around 1:34 in the afternoon local time. That's around 9 a.m. in the UK. The aircraft then started to climb, but the last signal was sent just 4 minutes later. Air traffic control say they received a mayday call from the plane, and that was the last contact before the crash. Local police say the plane hit a hostel that was housing doctors in a residential area close to the airport. At least 50 medical students have been taken to hospital. Well, pictures from the ground show pieces of the Boeing's jet fuselage and tail sticking out of buildings and wings and wheels lying in the wreckage of damaged and destroyed buildings. Emergency helpline numbers have been set up for those that need information on the flights. Air India have a number for those in India. It's 1-800-5691-444. There's also a number for foreign nationals too. That's 0091-806-277-920. And the UK's Foreign Office has a line for British nationals, 0207 008 5000. And of course, for those of you following, you can go onto the website to read more about what is happening. That concludes our special coverage of the devastating plane crash in India. We will now leave you with some of those tragic images from throughout this day.